it's a war. It's a war on killers. It's a war on terrorists. These are not narco-traffickers. These are narco-terrorists. We're not just going to hunt for drug dealers with the little fast boats and say, oh, let's try to arrest them. No, the president has said he wants to wage war on these groups because they've been waging war on us for 30 years and no one has responded.
We smoked a drug boat and there's 11 narco-terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. And when other people try to do that, they're going to meet the same fate.
And Danny Davis joins us now. He is retired lieutenant colonel at Defense Priorities and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive. Welcome back. Great to see you. So, question on a lot of people's minds heading into the weekend here. Like, is there a possibility that we could go to war with Venezuela or see kinetic action in Venezuela proper?
You know, it's shocking that you even have to ask that question. And, of course, the answer is that nobody knows except for maybe Trump, and who knows if he knows at all. The problem is that I don't see any actual strategy involved with it, and nothing that's been thought out. I just see some actions that have been taken here, and this came totally out of the blue. Nobody had been talking about we're going to go use military force to stop drug movements in the Caribbean Sea, et cetera, because the obvious questions that should be asked: what is next? How many of these are you going to do? What is the objective? What is the military strategy behind this? How much resources will it take? All these 8 ships that are in the region, how long will they have to stay there? And what happens when they need to leave, et cetera? And what are you doing on the demand side of this? That's the supply side. What about the demand side? And then you have the issue in the air, where a lot of this goes, probably more of it goes in the air than on the ground or in the ocean. And then you have all these other boats in the middle of it. How are you going to distinguish all of those from that to actually interdict the amount of drugs coming in? And I haven't seen an answer to any of those, and I worry that there may not be an answer.
So there's the drug aspect of it, and then there is the regime F-16s that apparently have buzzed warships once, possibly even twice. It's hard to tell because we've got conflicting reports coming in right now. But if these F-16s are buzzing warships and the United States does respond and shoot them out of the sky, how do you see that escalating?
Well, I mean, you see that that's literally an active war, and everything is possible from that point. I mean, this is probably not any different than when U.S. F-35s or some other aircraft or some French, you know, will buzz some of the Russian ships, or the Russian aircraft will buzz some of our ships. Happens commonly. It has been throughout the Cold War. So by itself, that's not anything unusual, and I suspect that's probably the playbook that they're using. I feel very confident that Venezuela has no interest in actually getting into a war, and so I think that this is just a demonstration to show some resolve, that they're not afraid, et cetera, because they don't have very many of these F-16s. They got these during the Reagan administration, and since I think like the 85 or something like that's the last shipment they got. So they don't have very many that are still airworthy, but they are lethal airplanes, and they have a capacity to actually cause harm to our ships. So it's a volatile situation that is really unnecessary, and I don't know why we're going down this path. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if they are playing chicken with an administration that just switched over from the Department of Defense to the Department of War, has been sending assets into the Caribbean, backing them up with what we understand to be possibly stealth aircraft, like, that doesn't seem like it's going to de-escalate anytime soon.
Well, yeah, I actually saw just before we came on the air here that there was a report that we'd sent 10 F-35s to Puerto Rico to have them in there closer. So it appears that you're building up. But I'm telling you, the scale of this issue, this problem is so big. And if you don't have a very well resourced and thought out plan, that means that you have forces, you have replacement forces, you have training, you have intelligence, and then that this is going to do any good anyway, that it's actually going to interdict the amount of drugs that are coming into the United States. And we've seen the war on drugs before. We tried that, and it was an abominable failure. And it looks to me like we're kind of going down the same path, except for not even as well thought out. That's one of the things about this administration that kind of concerns me really across the board, is that they take so many knee-jerk reactions that are big and splashy, look good on video, but then they end up producing nothing, like against the Houthis in the Red Sea. That was not exactly something you're going to see about in military history in the United States.
Yeah, and you know, like online, you've already got so many people being like, oh, we just go down there, we'll take them out real fast. And then you realize that, you know, Venezuela does have allies, Russia, China, they're very close with. I mean, do you think that people understand how complicated things could get if this escalates outside of, you know, just narco cartel terrorism and into states like Venezuela?
No, I don't think there's any understanding of that, and it's really troubling that there's not. I mean, goodness, all you got to do is look at 2 full decades of disaster and failure in Afghanistan, and we talked about how we were going to bring them to heal all these years, and talked about we were always on the right track, et cetera. And then we just left because we realized it was a dead end and we were never going to militarily succeed, and ended up literally losing. And then, like I said, this issue with the Houthis in the Red Sea, we went in there with lots of bravado, and Secretary of Defense Hegseth, now Secretary of War, went in there and told us how it was going to be a relentless process and we were going to shut down the Houthis. And after 2 months of inconsequential actions, spending $1 billion and losing lots of these interceptor missiles that we have that we need for our national security, we shut that down. And yet the Houthis are still there. They're still interdicting shipping in the Red Sea. So it's not a good track record. And I'm telling you, if you think that one was hard, just it's unimaginable how much more difficult it would be if we got into a kinetic fight with Venezuela. They're not as good as we are militarily, but they're on their home turf, and they can inflict a lot of damage on the United States. And there's nothing to gain from this. There's no benefit to us whatsoever to have military action against Venezuela. It would only be a net loss, and it still wouldn't stop the drug trade.
Danny Davis, always appreciate your perspective. Danny, thank you.